Hello, Dayna. How you doing?
I am phenomenal. Cannot complain. And how are you?
I'm very good too. This is Dean from EVN, the Elite Vendors Network, and I'm glad to be speaking to you today.
And the feeling is oh so mutual.
I think I should start by saying a Happy New Year to you.
Yes, Happy New Year. We're still allowed to say that, right? 'Cause it's like the beginning of January, isn't it?
Yeah.
So happy New Year.
To be fair, I don't know when the official cut-off point of saying Happy New Year is, but I usually, like when I'm speaking to my clients and stuff, I just kind of keep it going to the end of January. You know, people are pretty receptive to it, so...
Yes, it's always nice to hear good news.
Exactly, that's what I'm going to do. That's what I think I'll continue to do that. But I'm glad to get you on the phone because, you know, since the first time I heard you speak, which was actually at the Fresh Connections business networking event, I'll give them a little shout out to Nicole and team. You know, you had quite an impact upon me, and some of the things you were saying, or I should say, well, all of the things you were saying were very, very interesting and insightful. And before we go, I guess, too much into, you know, your tips and advice and what you do professionally, let's tell the people, everyone listening, who you are, a bit about your background, and you know, how you've come to be who you are today.
Oh wow, that's like a wide brief. That's pressure.
No worries, no pressure.
I will do the best I can. So, thank you so much, Dean, for having me on the network and to speak to your fabulous members who you've been raving about. By the way, you guys are really lucky to have Dean, and he's really supporting you and is in your corner. So as for me, I am married. I have 2 beautiful children.
Yes.
Life is happy. It's busy. I run 2 businesses as well. But unfortunately, life wasn't always as sweet as it is now. I grew up in quite challenging economic circumstances. I had my first baby at 18. I found myself a single mum by the time I was 20. And by the time I was 22, 23, unfortunately, I'd been made homeless and was kind of bouncing around in temporary accommodation. So things weren't that great at that time. And I remember thinking there was clearly something about money and personal finance that I needed to know at that time that I didn't know. Fast forward into my mid-20s, unfortunately got myself into serious debt. And again, this kind of recurring theme about money and personal finance came back to me. And that's when I decided to start self-study and teaching myself about money, and really trying to fill in all the blanks about the things that I didn't know, so that in essence I was stopping the cycle and continuing. In terms of professional work, I've worked in education, both in the primary phase, secondary phase, and also further in higher education, teaching adults and young people. I was previously a non-executive director for a housing association called Origin Housing. It's a fantastic association based in Eversole Street in Euston. The company had a turnover of about 50-60 million, and that was a fantastic training ground. And that was when I was really exposed to the concept of business being used for good. Because we hear a lot about, you know, greedy business people, etc., and capitalism that's not used for the benefit of people. Yeah. So that was a very interesting journey into how you have an entity that's measured not solely by profit, but actually what it does for the people that it serves, but also operating within a commercial environment, because at the end of the day, like any business, any organization, it still needs to have a surplus, as they call it in that industry, of money at the end of the year. So that's a little bit about my professional background. When I had my youngest child, who's now 3, when he was about 3 months old, my husband and I decided that we were going to buy a home because we got to that time. And I remember us putting in all the documentation, got the mortgage in principle, arranged, and I decided at that point, because I had been financially educating myself, to run an Excel spreadsheet just to see where the expenditure would be at the end of the month.
Okay.
Now, that time, We were quite far forward. We had a large emergency fund. Taking a year off for maternity leave was not a problem whatsoever. And I'll never forget going through that spreadsheet and running the numbers. And the first time I did it, it came up £169 short. So I thought, you know what, maybe it's me. I'm not a mathematician, so I ran the numbers probably about 7 or 8 times. And it came up that it was £169 short. And why that was very, very pertinent to me is that in life, I feel that we're told to, go to school, go to college, get a good job, get a profession, have a family, get married, work until retirement, and then that's kind of it. And in that moment, I realised that all of those things that we're told, that we're sold a little bit of a lie that if we do these particular things, life will lead us to where we want to go. A couple of days after that, a really good friend of mine who's a business development consultant, does some fantastic work with her clients, came to me and said that she was almost having like a moral dilemma because she's helping people set up these businesses, but they're not actually moving forward financially. The business is generating money, but they don't have any different knowledge about money and personal finance and how that works.
Yeah.
So the same spiral and cycle is still happening. So she asked me to check out an organisation that she'd come across that she thought would marry very well with what she was doing, and would actually teach people about money, how it works, and also how to manage their money properly. And she asked me to do some due diligence, kind of poke around, poke holes in it, and really tell her why she should get involved. We're both trusted confidants of one another. So I went away. I did that, looked into the organisation and what they did, kind of pulled it to pieces and reported back to her and said, you know what, I think this is something that's really fantastic and it would work really well for you. A few days later, I was kind of sitting there. Baby was 6 months old, enjoying my maternity leave, had no designs at all to do anything different than enjoy my maternity leave with my son at that time. And the thought just pops into my head, I think I could do this. So that was just over 2.5 years ago. And we are sitting here today having that conversation based on starting a business and working as a financial educator, teaching people about how money works, the rules of the money game, how to get their money working for them as hard as they work for it, how they can manage and protect that money so that they can leave a legacy for their family.
Wow, amazing. Powerful stuff.
Thank you.
I wasn't even aware of some of the parts of your story until you just said it, so that's why they say it is good to talk. And
it really is.
It seems like you've definitely been a long journey of ups and downs and successes and mistakes. But so tell us about who Dayna Byfield is today and what exactly does financial education mean?
Okay, so if we double back and I'll answer the first part of that question, who am I? I suppose the first thing that I would say about myself is that I'm a very curious person. Now, we were always taught when we grew up that curiosity killed the cat. Yeah, I believe that curiosity is the thing that separates us from the past to the future. Yeah. If we think about even sitting in an average house or office, if somebody wasn't curious, we wouldn't have light.
Yes.
If somebody wasn't curious, we wouldn't have a fridge. Yeah. We wouldn't have a washing machine. It took that curiosity for someone to say, I wonder what it would be like if I could put some clothes inside something that goes round and round and round and they could be washed and dried and hung away. It took somebody to be curious so that we can fly from one country to another. Can you imagine how bonkers it would have sounded for a friend of yours to say, Dean, I'm going to create a wooden structure that's going to fly across the sky so that you can go from here to another country in X amount of time. Yeah. You would have been laughed, that person would have been laughed out of the shop, as we know they are. So I would say that I maintain that level of curiosity. And one of the things that I think is really important is to study our environment around us. And if we look at how children operate and how ready and willing they are to meet new people and converse and take those risks, and they maintain that high level of curiosity, is unparalleled. And if we all just were a little bit more childlike and took a little bit more risk and took that leap of faith, then the world in general would be a much better place. I want to see people win. There's nothing that gives me greater pleasure than seeing somebody move from where they are now, regardless of the ups and downs and the challenges, to actually where they want to be. I'm a fun-loving person. I work hard. I like to play hard. I like to treat people how I like to be treated, which is with respect, kindness, dignity, honesty, truth, transparency, and with value. Because I believe if we're not giving one another value, essentially we're not being truthful, we're not being honest, we're not being transparent, what's the point? And I've got big goals and dreams for myself, for my family, for my community, and for ultimately our nation, and what we can achieve as a group of people working in the spirit of harmony and synergy together.
Okay, wow. I love it. And I guess this is part of the reason why I did get you onto this, EVN Stories podcast, because I feel like your message definitely needs to get out to as many people as possible in terms of learning about how we can start to make money work for us. I think there is a lot of misconceptions about money, and just as you made a good point about childhood, where this is where we learn a lot of our beliefs now, and we don't want to point fingers necessarily and blame our parents, but a lot of them obviously only taught us what they were taught, or what they
exactly
maybe they learned back home in all of their respective countries. But you just said a saying about curiosity killed the cat. That's definitely one thing I've been told lots of times as a child and growing up, and so many things that kind of cut off sometimes your creativity and your imagination, or sometimes it literally gets beaten out of you.
It's literally
as we all know. And then there's obviously other common sayings like money is the root of
doesn't grow on trees.
Or money doesn't grow on trees. And,
exactly.
There's no such thing as a free lunch, and there's so many things that basically kind of make us start thinking about money in sometimes quite a negative way. So
I think so. And even the quote that you just said about money being the root of all evil is actually a misquote.
Yeah.
It is the actual verbatim quote is the love of money.
Yeah.
Is the root of all evil. Because actually all money is a tool, and it's an amplifier for who you already are. Yeah. If you're a good person and you have money, you're just going to do some good with it. If you're a bad person and you have some money, you're going to do bad with it, because that's your personality, that's who you are.
Yeah, exactly. So through your financial education, how do you go about making people start to think and feel differently about money? Because obviously sometimes people talk about money like it's a very logical thing, but it's actually quite emotional for people as well. So how do you get them to feel differently about money, think differently about money, and kind of sometimes shift their mindset from things they've been taught literally for years and years and years, or generation to generation?
I think so. Firstly, I don't feel that it's about making people change or shift their mind. We've all got hot buttons as individuals. Yeah. Like, if your best friend or your mum was in the middle of the road and there was a car hurtling towards them and they had their foot stuck in a drain and you had to run 100 meters, you wouldn't start questioning, I wonder if I can make the journey. I wonder if I can run that 100 meters in the next 12 seconds that I have. You would just start to run.
Yes.
So it's to connect where you are now financially and emotionally to what it is that you actually want to achieve going forward. Now, for some people, they don't actually know that, because they get up, they do their business, they go to work, they come home, they cook, they clean, whatever. So my job, I feel, is to create an environment where you can help and support and facilitate that person to actually start to dream about what their goals are. Or if they already have goals, making them as specific as possible so that you can achieve them. For anyone that drives, they will know what it's like driving in fog.
Yeah.
You have to take extra safety precautions. You can't drive very fast. You just can't see where you're going. The journey always takes longer. And what I typically find is for most people, they do not have a specific financial destination that they know everything about.
Yeah.
They know what the colour is, what the dimensions are, how tall, how short it is. So it's kind of like if your friend said to you, you know, let's go out on Friday night, you say, sure, if we're available. What's one of the first questions that you would ask?
You would ask, where are you going?
Exactly. Where are we going? What's the time? What's the location? What's the drop point? What's the meet-up? But when you speak to people, they'll say, for example, I want to earn more money.
Yes.
I want to, I want to be happier. That's not measurable. It's not quantifiable. We can't measure that at all. And actually, how would you actually know if you got there? And earning an extra pound is earning more money.
Yes.
So I find that it's to get that hot button and as specific as possible. So someone says, oh, I want to buy a new car. I want to buy a Toyota Yaris, tropical blue, 1.2 engine, leather interiors. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you become an expert about that goal. So if anyone asks you about it, they should end up being an expert in it because you've defined it so specifically. And then what you do is that focuses your mind. You know, if you've ever thought about a red car, all of a sudden you see red cars all around you and you think, where did all of these red cars come from? You've just pinpointed in your brain a point for it to focus on. Yeah. And once the mind is focused, you have a burning desire to achieve something. We've all had something in our life at one time or another that we have almost been possessed by. That's that for me is the difference between even knowledge and where you actually want to be. So it's that gap between the knowledge and the application, which is the challenge for most people. Yeah. And how to help them move from, okay, A, I don't have any knowledge, or B, I've got some, but I'm not implementing that. And typically it's because there isn't a hot button and it's not specific enough.
Okay, so do you have a course? Do you have like a session with people there? What is the process? What you're saying is you are, you're making people's goals and dreams and the things that they want to achieve a bit more real, a bit more physical. In fact, I remember once someone told me many years ago, if you want to make £1 million, you should try and find a way to actually make it real to yourself. You should try and see it. You should try and touch it. You should smell it. You should feel it. You should basically awaken,
get all the senses involved.
Exactly, awaken all your senses with this, as you said, a burning desire to get this million. Because obviously it's very common. Everyone says they want $1 million. How do we get from just saying something like that to actually getting on the road to achieving it?
So it's in two different types of ways. Firstly would be a kind of one-to-one consultation, and I have a network of people that I work with all around the UK and Northern Ireland as well. So we always start with what it is that you want to achieve, what are your goals, and helping you formulate, make them as specific as possible. And the next stage is really to fill in the financial blanks that typically most people have, irrespective of how much they earn, irrespective of what their professional background is, and irrespective of what demographic they belong to. Most people are just not taught how to manage their own money and about personal finance. So we go through that goal process, the education process, and then very importantly, actually producing a financial plan for that individual that acts a bit like a sat-nav essentially. It plugs in exactly where they are now, where they want to be, and fills in all the blanks. So they know exactly what they need to do on a monthly basis to actually achieve the goals that they've now just set for themselves. And that's also done on a complementary basis as well. The other way that we help individuals is by group seminars. So you would have had a bit of a taste of that when I spoke at the Fresh Collections group.
Yeah.
So it's all about getting down to the specifics. So, for example, you may have someone in the room that wants to pay off their mortgage early. There is a way, just to give you an example, that you can pay off a 25-year mortgage 5 to 8 years early just by paying slightly different. So the same money you pay every month, so not overpaying, not remortgaging, not changing your provider, not changing your interest rate, just paying slightly differently from how you pay now, can reduce a 25-year mortgage down between 5 years and 8 years early. Yeah, so it's about those practical steps. What exactly do I need to do to achieve this goal? So it's either on a one-to-one basis, in a group setting, but it's all geared towards tangible things that you can actually take away and start implementing that action as soon as possible. And then you'd have someone like myself who would be there to hold your hand for as long as you need, as long as you want it, until you've actually achieved the goals and dreams that you have, and indeed help you set new ones. Because that's another challenge for people. They have a goal, they hit it, what now? So we should always have the next goal ready, or as soon as we've achieved something, we've now set another goal in motion to keep us moving forward.
Yeah. Sometimes when we think about money, and I came to your Paths to Financial Success, I believe it's called, event last month, and some of the things that Daryl was saying in terms of planning for your future, planning for buying a car, getting a mortgage, also your pension, or even a funeral, without being too morbid, but obviously these things do happen. You constantly have to be thinking and planning, and sometimes when you look at the whole big picture, it becomes a bit daunting because it pushes you to procrastination, because you're like, I can't solve all these problems, I can't even solve one problem, so I'm just gonna leave it and just turn a blind eye and pull the wool over my eyes, or the quilt over my eyes, go back to sleep, and then not worry about anything at all. And I speak to a lot of people, obviously, within the events industry, and a lot of people want to achieve, I guess, autonomy. They want to be financially free. They want to run their business, which most of the time started off as a passion, and it's become a business. And they want to have staff. They want to employ people. They want to have their own shop, warehouse, kitchen, just a premises. And they start thinking of the bigger picture, and then I guess they just end up doing nothing, and they just maybe continue on the same cycle, day by day, month by month, year by year. What would you advise people to really start with to help them out in the long run?
I mean, I think that in any circumstance and anywhere in life, the moment we start to think about absolutely everything and try and tackle absolutely everything, generally we get absolutely nothing done.
Yeah.
So money and finance isn't particular in that sense, but obviously it's such a central part and parcel and issue of everybody's life. And like you quite rightly said, it's very rare that you come across somebody who doesn't want to be financially free. But it's important to understand and recognize that, yes, there is a financial definition of what that means, but more importantly, there is an individual definition of what that means. For some people, it just means that I can meet my bills on time. For some people, it means that I don't have to worry about paying bills. And I think the most important thing is that you're moving forward. Yeah. So when I work with my clients, typically, I will get them to hone in and focus on one or two goals that are very important to them. So we look at everything in terms of their overarching finances, but once they've set one or two goals, we tackle them one or two at a time. Yeah. So you're not looking at the house and the wedding and the pension and the this and the that and the kids' university funding, because like you said, that can lead to procrastination. Yes. I think also, I mean, you've known me long enough to know that, I keep it 100% real. Yeah. We have to look at the people who are above us in seniority where they are at, okay, and be realistic about what path they've taken. And if you are following the same path that your parents, grandparents, elders took, you will get to the same destination. And often I find that's a challenge for people because they're waiting for the next thing. So the next pay rise, the next partnership, the next business, the next job, or whatever it may be, or the next windfall. It just is not achieved like that. Even if you look at people that win the lottery, out of every 5 lottery winners, 4 of them within a 5-year period will be broke again. Because they got money, but they didn't learn how to utilize it, how to manage it, how to grow it, how to keep it. Because fundamentally, one of the challenges that we all have with money is, for some people it's the acquisition, but many people who even earn millions over a lifetime are still broke at traditional retirement age. So if you look at the average person at 67 out of 100, only 1 will be wealthy, 4 will be financially independent, 41 will still be working, not because they want to and they're passionate about what they do, but because they have to, otherwise they wouldn't be able to pay bills. And 54 will be dead broke. That is irrespective of industry. So that is people that work in the financial industry, people that manage other people's money for living, accountants, footballers, basketball players, actresses, people that earn millions over their lifetime. So Boris Becker, who's probably earned maybe £160 million over his lifetime, has recently declared bankrupt. And he cited the reason was because of lack of financial education. So he earned a huge amount of money, but he wasn't able to keep hold of it. So we have to be realistic about what we're doing and where that's actually going to lead us. And make a conscious decision that if we don't like where we're going, that we're actually going to take some different actions, and that we're not going to pull the wall over our heads and leave it. And if we focus on moving forward, even if it doesn't happen in our own time frame or as quickly as we would like, you will end up in a better position X amount of years from now, based on the fact that you decided to tackle it, you made the decision. I find that typically that's also one of the challenges, actually making the decision. Because even if you look at the word decide, it's like suicide, homicide, pesticide. There is no way back. So it's about saying, and I mean that in the most positive ways. Once you've made a decision, and we've all in our lifetime just decided that we're going to go for this thing, whether it was a course, whether it was a business, whether it was a boyfriend or girlfriend, and we've all been there when we've just said that person is the person that I want, and I'm not going to stop until I get them. So yeah, focus on 1 or 2 things and just moving forward. And actually, I believe in building up your self-confidence and self-worth through personal development. Because if you've got things lurking in the back of your mind, you're not worthy, you don't know how to do it, you don't believe it, you don't think it's possible, then it's unlikely that you're going to take the steps that are necessary. Even if you've got a plan that's laid out and you know exactly what you need to do, if you've got things lurking in the back of your mind that are potentially negative, that's going to prohibit what actions you are going to decide and commit to take.
Okay. As far back as I can remember, we're used to hearing about some of our heroes going broke, you know, from whether it's MC Hammer to Bobby Brown to Lauryn Hill to Mace to DMX and, you know, many, many more that have gone bankrupt. And for not as long of a time, but still for a long time, you hear that the people who are successful, especially mainly black celebrities, the ones that are successful are usually known to have sold their souls and stuff like that. You know, people don't often believe that the money is just, they don't believe that it's been genuinely earned. Like,
generated,
They believe that some transaction, like whether it's with the devil or something,
some Illuminati business has happened.
Has to have happened for these people to reach super success. So you got people going broke who you kind of love and respect. Their wealth isn't kind of believed as like achievable. So then I guess that just leaves a lot of people in the middle not really achieving a lot because they're like, you know, I can't get there anyway.
You know? I think there's a couple of things. Even if we back up and look at the MC Hammer example.
Yeah.
MC Hammer generated some nice coin over his career.
Yeah.
The reason MC Hammer went broke was because he kept putting people on the payroll.
Yeah.
He saw people, for example, coming out of the penitentiary. I've got this, that I need doing. I'm going to put them on the payroll. Now, when our emotions are high, our logic is low. And like you were saying before, often money and finance and even spending decisions we make are based off emotion and not logic.
Yeah.
Okay? So in that circumstance, you're not making a business decision. You're making a decision based on the fact that you've got a friend who's coming out of the penitentiary who you don't want to see going back there. And that's a noble thing to do. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that people shouldn't do that. But MC Hammer grew a huge staff. Staff have to be paid for. There is only a certain amount of money that is being generated. And if more money is being spent than that's being generated, you are going to go broke.
Yeah.
So again, that's also a financial literacy and a financial education issue.
Yeah.
Because if your money was being managed appropriately, you would be hiring staff on the basis of the needs of the business. Because the business wasn't a charity, it was a for-profit entity. And typically, people like MC Hammer, for example, that earn lots of money, one, spends a hell of a lot of money, and two, they don't invest the large sums of money like some of the other professional athletes out there or people in general. And you've got to have a look at what's coming in. You've got to have an eye on the expenditure. You've got to have an eye on the planning and the overall financial literacy. But, you have to look at this as a 360-degree issue. Doing one thing without the other, it's like a house, without a solid foundation, just makes everything shaky. And if you're not getting that money to work for you, and these expenses are rising as they will do every year, at a certain point, unfortunately, you're going to run out of money and have to go bankrupt and all those things. Back to your point that you made about essentially people, has the money been generated with integrity then, shall we say, or without having to sell yourself out. One of the things that I always encourage people to do is to think a little bit more critically about the messages that we get about certain people. Why do you think that we receive messages about people that are so-called in the Illuminati, or they're doing this or they're doing that? In my opinion, and it's just my opinion and you can take it or leave it, one of the reasons why that agenda is pushed to us is to make us feel that we can't achieve financially, because if we're not willing to do things that are not in line with our morals, our values, our beliefs and our integrity, we reject the whole notion. And then who profits from that mindset? The people that we spend our resources with, because we don't think that we can generate sums of money. And one of the other important things I always say to people is that it's relative to you and what you want to achieve. So someone might want to be a millionaire, and that's fantastic. Somebody else, like I said, might just want to know that they can pay their bills on time. Their family will be protected if something happens to them. All the assets within the family, or the majority of them, would go to the family if the worst does happen.
Yeah.
They're not interested in becoming a millionaire or becoming a superstar or whatever with all of those trappings. But again, going back to those stats, out of 100, at 67, 95% of people are in trouble, irrespective of how much they've earned over their lifetime. Because it's not what you earn, it's what you keep that counts.
But what would you say to the person who has either been in business for a little while and they have made several bad financial decisions, and they're in a bit of a loop, they're in a bit of a spiral of debt? How does that person get out of the loop?
I think the first thing that mostly we have to tackle is mindset, and it's that I've done this, it's not worked, I'm going to beat myself up. Okay, so firstly, around 8 million households in the UK are in serious financial troubles. Okay, everyone's run out of money. France ran out of money on the 7th of November 2017. Okay, they were officially bankrupt without any money on the 7th of November 2017. But you won't hear that in the news because it's a company. Sorry, it's a country.
Yeah.
If it's a company, you hear about it. It's a country that had no coin, okay? They refreshed in January. And apparently every year, France's broke one day earlier. So 2016, it was the 8th of November. So firstly, it's a cultural phenomenon that we live in, that we've been sold this ideology that it's okay to be in debt. All right. And now some people will argue with me about good debt and bad debt, and I'm loaning this money and I'm generating an income, I'm buying property, etc., etc. The majority of people who are in serious debt issues are not leveraging that money and utilizing it to actually make capital from it. So that's the first thing. So there is a cultural and society issue here that we also have to think about, and we are all part of that society and culture, which feeds into the fact that it's okay to have the hire purchase car and the furniture and the this and the that and the mortgage and whatever, and just kind of spread out those payments. Secondly, I think that people need to be kinder to themselves and understand that failure is part and parcel of life, but the failure really comes when you don't do anything about the situation, irrespective of what the situation is. In this instance, it's about money and about debt. So most things are salvageable, they're reversible, and it's more than possible to turn it around into something that's positive and where you want to go.
Yeah.
But if we keep blaming ourselves and looking at, I've done this and that's bad and that's wrong, that's part of the reason why we keep perpetuating that cycle. So it's like, okay, drawing a line in the sand and saying that I've done this is where I've come from, I'm making a decision, but I want things to be different. Okay? The next thing I would encourage anybody to do if they are in debt, for example, or in a financial situation which they are not happy about, is to take a piece of paper, sit down, list everything that's coming in, list everything that's going out, so you know exactly what is going on. Okay? Now, for anybody who would like a budgeting spreadsheet, I've got one that I can send out to people, and I'll give my details at the end of the call. It's really important to actually know what the picture is.
Yes.
And sometimes that's just half of the battle, opening the letters, sitting down, writing it all out. Because once you know, you can do.
Yes.
Yeah? Then you need a plan, and preferably someone to support you implement that plan.
Yeah.
And those are kind of the first things I'll do. And I would say to them that it is more than possible for you to turn this thing around, and it probably would take less than you think it would.
Yeah.
Less money, less time. Typically we start overestimating. We just make up things in our heads. We assume things because we're in our own situation and we're in the worst case scenario.
Yeah. I'm sure you don't mind me saying that you recently become debt free yourself, and but earlier in the call you said that there was a time when you were in debt and things weren't going too well for you. So was it just kind of like your self-education, the reading of books and stuff that helped you, or did you literally have to change your circle? Did you have to change the people that you hung around with and stuff as well?
I mean, at that point it was really about the self-education, and I made the decision that I wanted things to change. I, like a lot of people, I got to a certain age, opened up a bank account, got a credit card, this and that and the other, fell on some hard times, reached for the plastic. Yeah? Yeah. So that was the reason why I got into debt in the first place. So number one, I made the decision that I wanted things to change, and I didn't want to pass on the same ideology to my children. Number two, I had to start changing my behaviour. I put myself on a strict budget. So I think the first month that I decided that I was going to pay off all of these debts, I think I had £50 pocket money. That was it. Yeah. Once that £50 was gone, I had to wait. Because it's either short-term loss for long-term gain, or you get that instant gratification, but in the long run, it's no good for you. So there's going to be some pain. So you have to decide, do you want to take that while you're young, you're fit, you're agile, you've got time on your side? Or do you want to experience that when you're in your 60s? still going to work at 6 o'clock in the morning in the cold. Not because you want to and you love what you do, but because you have to.
Yeah. It's a deep question. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that for many reasons. But I just wanted to talking about pain. I've been on my own journey with money, and especially with quoting and charging my clients.
One of my favourite subjects.
Yeah, and it, I've been in business. It's going to be 9 years this year.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. But there was a time when it was just really an expensive hobby. I think only in the last few years it's become a real business and grown into a company and stuff like that. Before I had all the titles of being an entrepreneur, businessman, and people were always rating me and celebrating me and stuff. But
yes,
really and truly, it just was not making sense numbers wise. Sometimes people say that we're a bit more pricey than our competitors, or etc. But I'm a bit kind of numb to what people say, because I've been through the pain of literally being really broke, not being able to pay my bills, not being able to pay my office rent, my staff, not being able to buy any new equipment, not being able to fix the vehicles, etc. And it was just really a struggle. So again, money is a very emotional thing for some people. Some people really don't know how to charge what they're really worth to their clients, or really get money, and that's really going to make a difference to their business, themselves, their family, etc. So because not everyone's going to go through that same pain that I've been through, that you've been through. So how do you recommend that people get the confidence to charge what they're really worth, or just charge a bit more?
Okay, so there's a couple of things. So most people that go into any type of business, they have phases. Okay, so when you first start, it's natural that you wouldn't necessarily have the confidence to charge, let's call it the market rate then. If the market rate for your service is X amount, you may not have the confidence to charge that for good reason. Firstly, you don't necessarily have the consummate experience. And secondly, you might just feel like, well, I'm just a, really small fish in a big pond. There's no way I can possibly charge this amount. What I would say to encourage people is, the first thing is know what it is that your industry dictates as a price point.
Yeah.
If that means picking up the phone, let's just grab it out of the air, for example. I'm a makeup artist.
Yes.
Yeah? And I do basic, bridal, event makeup, nothing extravagant. I can just call up people who I will find online doing similar work to me and ask them what their prices are.
Yes.
Again, it's about that being specific, so knowing. Okay, that will give you a good barometer as to whether what you're charging or not is appropriate.
Yeah.
The second thing you have to look at is, what is the added value that I bring? Okay, because even with a makeup artist, you're not actually a makeup artist. What you're doing, let's take bridal makeup, for example. I remember when I was looking for a makeup artist for myself and my million bridesmaids, there was about 6 of them in the end. What she provided wasn't really just a makeup artist service.
Yeah.
She gave me the ability to feel 100% confident on one of the most important days of my life.
Yes.
So ask yourself, what is the value of what you're providing, and what is it that you're really doing? You're not, for example, just setting up a function hall for a wedding reception, or doing makeup, or providing food. Do you know what I mean? And if you're doing bridal makeup, for example, but there is something that's niche about what you do, or how you do it, or the products you use, or the process that you go through, you are above the market rate.
Yes.
Because the market will pay you what the market is willing to pay you.
Yeah.
In any business, in any service. So let's say, for example, normal bridal makeup was, I don't know, £100. If you're using organic products that you can only get from a certain place, you now have even if you're doing a box standard bridal package, you now have the ability to charge more than what the market dictates, because you are using organic products. Yeah? Now, if you've got some specific techniques that you're using that only you do, or you do more of a theatrical type of bridal makeup, for example, or you're going to service a type of bride who wants to look like Dracula on her wedding day, that again is listen, there are people out there, I've seen them. That again is a completely different niche. If I'm coming from a theatre background, I'm a makeup artist, because I might be able to, do things with your makeup and put additional extras on you that a run-of-the-mill, pardon the term, makeup artist wouldn't be able to do. So you've got to look at, what is it I'm actually providing? And just sticking with weddings, I think it's a great example. People will pay through the nose for wedding catering. Yes. Because it's so important. Yeah. The venue, the makeup, the food, the music. Pretty much anything else can go wrong. If the food is not up to standard at a wedding, that is just a complete no-no. People will be talking about that for years, and that could ruin somebody's wedding day. So what is it that you're actually providing as a product and service? Research to make sure that you know what the market dictates. If you're offering more than the market provides, you then have the right to charge a little bit more, and have confidence in yourself. The more value you provide to somebody, the more right you have to a higher price. It's a sow and reap. It's like an ecosystem. That's what I like to think about it as. The client's happy, I'm happy. And actually undercharging doesn't help you in the long run. Because, people get frustrated, money's not great. And it also doesn't help the industry at large as well.
Exactly. There's big talks about, having industry kind of, like, having a kind of locked price, like you don't go below a minimum, you don't go higher than a certain price. For example, I know there's people who are making cakes are doing it. I think, makeup artists and hairdressers and photographers are doing it, etc. But it's so hard to... I think one thing I've heard in the past is that, when people, they may agree to it publicly, but then when they go home, again, it's emotional. So if you go home and, you got something to pay, or your kid's hungry, or, or you just literally, you've got your next bill payment coming out for and it's all about, you're providing value and a service. A fair service deserves a fair price and being paid. And also, there's 7 billion people on this planet. We can find other customers who are willing to meet our price point, because if we're providing exceptional value, then it's only fair that the pay is consummate to the value that we're providing. So we need to make sure we're fishing in appropriate ponds. There's little point fishing in a pond that's not up to your price point. So go and find the clients that are going to meet the value that you're providing for them. Of course, you have to be flexible and negotiable, but I believe that there's just another client, another customer out there who's going to dearly appreciate what you do and be able to match your price point. Exactly. No, what I was going to say is that, some people just, they say they're going to charge a certain price, and they just go home and they end up charging much less. But when I first came into the industry, my strategy was to be one of the cheapest. To undercut,
to
undercut, to be one of the hardest working. I think it's common. Like, people just say it's just amongst black people stuff, but I don't think so. I think your biggest supermarkets do it. Your biggest department stores do it. Even John Lewis will say their motto is never knowingly undersold. Which means that you shouldn't be able to beat their price in another shop. So it's not just us, but we have to get to a certain point where we are not just working, especially some people doing it for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, is just going around in the same circle.
So that's when you don't have an exit strategy.
Exactly, because as I said, when I first started, my thing was, I want to come in, I want to do as many as I can. Actually, I was doing whatever people ask you to do. Sometimes, if you see some of the events that I've set up either by myself or with maybe one or two other people, and then DJ'd on top, and then and was driving on top of that. Sometimes I was MCing and hosting as well.
Wow.
Like, I've done
Superman.
Sometimes it feels like that, you know. You know, but or sometimes it felt like that in the past, but now I definitely don't feel like Superman. I'm older, I'm getting tired, my back's hurting me, sometimes my foot's hurting me, you know, and I just realised that, hold on, I cannot do all of this because I'm getting tired faster, and I literally cannot just keep going like a machine or like a robot. And I think a combination of that plus I've just realised I think I've really gained confidence in myself, knowing that I can provide what people want and I'm going to deliver.
That's your entrepreneur's journey, but I think it's part of a lot of entrepreneurs' journey. And it's that, again, that cross from a hobby to actually making it a business. And many people have, you know, great technical skill and expertise, but they don't have the business side or the business acumen, which is expected if they're not coming from that background and environment. So really what you were talking about was having systems and processes in place that can run without you. And that's another thing that often people do. I know that it's notorious in your industry where people are doing absolutely everything. And they know the cost of everything but the value of nothing. So what is the value of being able to set up an infrastructure? A business essentially is a system that can work without you. Go and stand in a McDonald's anywhere in the world and ask for the owner. You will never find the owner. You will find a manager who manages probably a number of McDonald's for that owner. And one of the things I always say to anyone who's in business, go and sit in a McDonald's for an hour and watch the process that the individuals in there that go through. Everyone's got a role. They know what they're doing. The chips are cooked disgustingly the same for the same amount of time, because it is a system where you can just teach anybody. You can teach a low-skilled person how to run a McDonald's enterprise. And essentially, that's where the freedom comes, when you have the systems and processes in place so that it can run whether you're there or you're not.
Exactly. That is obviously McDonald's. You know, so many people use it as like the kind of the holy grail of business because of what they've managed to do. You could go anywhere in the world and you can ask for a Big Mac. So I would say that it's quite difficult to implement that in my industry or in this wedding industry, because people often want to speak to me, the owner, or they want to... I guess the thing is, over the years, I have managed to, I guess, step away a little bit, but it is very personal way. As you said, with a lot of wedding companies or a lot of events companies, the owner's name is on the door or on the website, or, you know, how do people implement these systems and try and get away from that? Or is there even a problem with that if the business is profitable? Because obviously some people make a lot of money just with the business being literally them, you know?
I mean, it depends on how strong your brand is, I feel, in my opinion. But if you've got a manager, for example, who is an executive manager and they take care of all the events, you structure your business in a way where if there is a challenge, for example, or a port of call that needs to be had, that goes through the executive team, who you will appoint. So it's all about how have you started your business, how do you now transition, and how do you structure your business. Having your name over the door isn't an issue. And if you want to be central to your business, that isn't an issue. But again, what's your goal? If your goal is to have an exit strategy and the business runs without you, then you being the one who's the last point of contact wouldn't work if that's your strategy and where you want to go. So it's all about knowing what you want and then what systems you need to facilitate the goals that you have.
Okay, I've got two more questions for you. The first one is, I know you don't necessarily give financial advice. You're a financial educator. But in the wedding industry or the events industry, I guess there's a lot of people who are starting kind of organic or grassroots type businesses where literally, so let's use chairs. You buy 10 chairs and then you hire those 10 chairs out and then you make enough money so you can buy 100 and 1,000? Or do you think it's best to just go in kind of on the other end of the spectrum with invest, like hundreds of thousands that you can just get everything done at once?
It depends. That's the diplomatic answer. So you use the example of the DJ in the bedroom. Most businesses start out their life in very humble beginnings. If you look at Amazon and the monster of an amazing business that it is now, it started in a garage. So there is nothing wrong with starting a business from very humble, small beginnings on a small scale, learning your craft and expanding. Now, if you're talking about going in, let's say we're going in at the luxury end of the market and we want to scale up this business very, very, very quickly, obviously we're going to need some money.
Yeah.
So it depends on which end of the coin you find yourself. If you have a really good business idea, you've proved the concept, you're able to raise funding, you've got mentors and a team of people around you who are working towards a common goal, there is nothing wrong with you approaching your business from that perspective. As equally as there's nothing wrong with starting from very small, humble beginnings, as many successful organizations have, irrespective of industry, but taking the events industry as an example. I think that what's most important is where are you growing to as an individual? Because where you grow, everything else will go in terms of whether it's business, personal life. So whether you decide to scale a large company very quickly, or whether you decide to start from more humble beginnings, my encouragement would be for you to work on yourself as an individual. Because a lot of the time we're banging ourselves our head against a brick wall and things are not going the way that we want to, because we are not yet the person we need to be to occupy the space that we want to have.
All right. That was actually the question 1 of 3. But so I've got 2 more. So,
okay.
I listen to a lot of motivational stuff and watch the videos like Eric Thomas, Les Brown, and more. And one thing that I don't think is actually Les Brown, but I've heard him say it in his videos. Money isn't everything, but it ranks right up there with oxygen. Oxygen. Yeah, which is an amazing quote. I love that. Always keep that in mind. Saying that, do you feel like our education system is productive or efficient or useful? Do you feel like it's a waste of time? And if you could change any elements of it, what would it be?
Oh, that is a big question, but one that both my husband and myself are very, very, very passionate about.
Yeah.
So the first thing that I would start with in terms of the education system as it currently is, if you look at the word education, its Latin root is actually in the word educare, which means to draw out what is within.
Yeah.
So if we look at the education system, it does the exact opposite of the root of the word education.
Yeah.
Essentially, you're funneled with information and you're expected to regurgitate it.
Yeah.
The way that the world is now, I don't feel that is an appropriate way to approach education.
Yeah.
But from a political point of view, the education system serves its purpose, in my opinion, which is to socialize people into the class system that they have been assigned.
Yeah.
That's what I feel that the purpose of this education system is.
Yeah.
So much so that my youngest child will not be going into the formal education system. They will be homeschooled.
I'm hearing a lot of people doing this now. Yeah.
That's the biggest stamp I can give as a validation for myself and my husband and family to how we feel about the education. But are there some great schools out there? Yes. Are there some great teachers out there? Yes. Are there some great practitioners out there? Yes. Are there some people doing amazing things? Yes. But we've got to look at why the thing was designed the way that it's designed. And it has its roots in industrial England, factories. We batch kids into groups by age, like on a production line. once they drop off, we expect that they're at this particular level. So it basically works like a factory. Batch them up, teach them all the same thing, all at the same time. Once that lesson's finished, we move on to the next lesson, and from that, we shall never depart.
Yeah.
So to your second question about what do I believe that should be done about the education system, I don't believe that there is anything that we can do to change the education system. I believe that it would need to be completely dismantled and rebuilt again with different aims, which I don't feel, not being negative, I just don't feel that would happen. In terms of what I would like to see people in general, I'm not talking about teachers, because actually the biggest and most influential teachers that we have are our parents, our family, and those people that we see in our community on a daily basis. And we have the collective responsibility to educate, to bring out what is within our children, not the people that run the DFE or the local authority or the schools or the head teachers. In my opinion, I feel like knowledge of self is paramount. And what I mean by knowledge of self is knowledge of who we are as spiritual beings. Okay, teaching children how to master their thoughts, their feelings, how we're all interconnected as human beings, individuals. Yes, of course, I believe in teaching children how to read and write and about geography and landscapes and all of those things. But I think if we could teach our children how to master themselves and how to interact with other people and how to be not dependent but interdependent and work with others, pretty much anything that we would need to create would be created. A lot of people have lack of self-confidence, they don't really know who they are, and actually I feel that we should focus more on people's strengths, not their limitations, or not the things that they need to get better at. Because with all the best will in the world, even if I focused all of my time and attention in those areas for development, in inverted commas, I will probably not get as good as a return as if I focus all my energy into areas that I'm good at. So if we focus children on what are they naturally good at, or just people in general, what do you do naturally, not what your profession is, not what you're taught, where do you show up the best in life and teach you how to master yourself. I believe that everything else will come from that. And of course those all important business skills as well, because I believe that we need to build our own sustainable communities, ecosystems and businesses.
Exactly. Just while you've been speaking, I've just been thinking about, everything that I use in, my daily life. And I think, so many things have changed from, technology to transport to just daily life and stuff. But what hasn't changed is the education system. So I was just thinking to myself, if I was to be in charge of education, what are the main subjects that I would have in the system? And I've come up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. And that is nutrition, because we all have to eat and take care of ourselves every day. IT, because you have to know about technology in this day and age, unless there's a very few professions don't need any technology, but other than that, everyone else is on computers. Finances, obviously, for obvious reasons, closely followed by mathematics, business, English, and then social and presentation skills, because just like you said, social skills are so important, and also the confidence and knowing how to sell yourself, because I find a lot of people, even into their 30s and 40s and stuff, keep talking about they're shy. Like, what are you talking about? You're shy. You like the thing is,
everyone's an individual, though, aren't they? And we're all at a different stage.
Yeah, but why I say that is because you're adults. You're adult, and I think you have to learn how to survive in business or in most in most kind of walks of life. You have to be able to present yourself, speak up for yourself. One of my friends says you shouldn't be over 10 and be shy. And I always remember that. I always say that to anyone that tells me that they're shy, because really and truly you have to be able to present and sell yourself, which a lot of us aren't taught. So I think those would be my 8 subjects for.
Lovely. So you're setting up your own school, Dean?
If I was to change the education system, you never know, that might come one day. I've done so many other things I wasn't expecting to do, so you never know. But what about you? Do you agree with those, or?
I think that's a good bunch.
Yeah.
I don't think I've got anything to add to that list at all.
Okay. All right. Well then, perfect. So maybe this could work if it's coming from, if it gets your blessing. Maybe.
Oh, bless you.
Maybe it can work and go forward. Okay. So my very last question for you tonight is: can we find out how we find out more what you do and what you teach, and how they can engage and interact with you?
Okay, so it's been fantastic speaking with you this evening. Thank you very much.
No,
so I can be reached on the following platforms. So firstly, I'm on LinkedIn. Yeah. So if anybody wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, so that's Dayna Byfield. So you can catch me on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
You can connect with me on Twitter at Dayna Byfield. You can also connect with me via email, dayna@daynabyfieldlondon.com.
Okay.
And on my mobile, which is 07725 190 073. So that's 07725 190 073. I just wanted to put it out there to your EVN network. But I've actually got a seminar called The Path to Financial Success coming up on Saturday, the 4th of February 2018. That's going to be based in Stratford. That's going to be an introduction to personal financial management, kind of expanding on some of the things that I've spoken about this evening, and other concepts on that as well. So if anyone would like to attend that, and tickets for the session are complimentary, so please contact me, obviously, by the methods that I've given. Just with your first name, last name, mobile number and email address, and I'll get you booked on for that seminar.
Okay, and I would like to just say that I have been myself. I went on one of my rare free Saturdays, and it was absolutely fantastic. Like, I'm so glad I went. I would say to anyone listening to this, like 100% go to that seminar. If you hear this after that seminar's taken place, then contact Dayna and find out when the next one is, because it was very, very, very inspiring. It gave me a lot of food for thought, and also it gave me some practical actions to take, from that day, about how I can start, thinking and thinking better about our money and treating it better as well, because that's often what a lot of people don't do. So my final question for you this evening, and this is the big one: what actions do people need to take to make 2018 their best year ever? Because obviously we're in a new year, we're in January, there's a lot of positivity right now, and before it dwindles and people start getting upset, moany, negative again, what's just the daily things that someone should do to kind of just stay on top of things and make this year count? That's just what everybody wants. Everyone says every year, I want to make this year count. This is why I got you on the show nice and early, because I was like, I don't want to do this middle of the year. Let's do it early. So hopefully, this can, even if this just helps one person do something different or something better, I will get a lot of satisfaction out of that. So no pressure. And don't just say come to my event and I'll tell you. No. I need something juicy. Okay.
So for those people out there that have committed to making 2018 their breakout year, or the year that's going to, make them as a person, as a family. So a few things. So the first thing I would encourage you to do is carve out some time where you can actually have the headspace to sit down and just think about what it is that you want. One of the challenges being busy all the time. Okay, I have some time in the week that's just set aside for reflection. Carve out some time so that you can have some headspace to think about what you want. Get a piece of paper, okay?
Yes.
And don't think about it. Just write down anything that comes to your mind. It could be something insignificant. It could be, I want to buy a new shower. I want to pass a theory test. Just give yourself 5-10 minutes and just write down all of the things that you would like to achieve. Okay? The other thing that I would encourage you to do is to get together with maybe 2 or 3 of your closest confidants. These are people that love you unconditionally, like you, know you, and trust you. Yeah. And set up an accountability group. These are the things that we want to achieve over 2018. Okay, and break it down into 90-day cycles. A year is just 4 periods of 90 days. So guys, this is what I want to achieve over 90 days. And it could even just be one friend, and be accountable to somebody else. Be grown up enough to be accountable, which I know sounds like an oxymoron, but we all need that. We all need that sometimes. Like, oh my gosh, I didn't do what I said I was going to do. I need to fix up myself because I know that I'm going to have to reach out to Dean and say, Dean, I didn't do what I said I was going to do today.
Yes.
Make a decision. Yeah, wishing, wanting. Remember I said decide, like suicide, homicide, pesticide. Decide that whatever comes at you, because I promise you, almost simultaneously, the universe is going to conspire to find out whether you're serious about what you want.
Yeah.
And the challenges will start to roll and come.
Yes.
But decide that whatever is thrown at you, whatever happens, that you are still going to win.
Yes.
Because failure is not in falling down, it's staying down. And make a plan. Make a plan. This is what I need to do. I've got 90 days, and you kill it for that 90 days. Yeah. And one of the other things that I always advise people, take a break every 90 days. People think I'm mad. I'm not talking about go and take a 2-week break. I'm talking about in 90 days time, go and take a long weekend. Relax. Use some of that time to review how the past 90 days have gone, what you want to achieve for the next 90 days. Now you're fresh and you can go at it for another 90 days.
Yes.
Because without rest, relaxation and recuperation for short spaces of time, people, not ad infinitum, it is essential. Otherwise you'll burn out.
Yeah.
Productivity will be low. Kill it for 90 days, have a break. Kill it for 90 days, have a break. Kill it for 90 days, have a break. And I promise you, you'll look up. It will be December 2018. And even if you haven't achieved everything that you wanted to do, your life will look better than what it looks like now.
Yes, that was nice and strong. I'm standing up right now, yo. That was good. Yes, I'm satisfied.
I'm glad.
Yeah, you gave me that advice the other day when we spoke. You said, make sure that every 90 days I take a break.
Do something nice.
I take a break with my girlfriend. We take time out. We go holiday. We go to a spa. We have a treatment, etc. Just to make sure that we are marking.
Exactly. And with the 90 days, it needs to be booked in advance. Don't wait. It could be anything, and it needs to be outside of your normal everyday environment.
Yes. Love it, love it, love it, love it. It's been a blast, a really good chat, and I didn't expect anything less. And I hope to see you, or let me not even say that, I will be seeing you at your next...
There you go.
path to financial success. So I'll see anyone else there that also attends.
Great.
Okay, have a good evening.
All right, my dear. You too. Thanks so much. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye-bye.